Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. It is 1 o'clock p.m. on December 2nd. It is a Tuesday, the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I'm Connor Reel. I'm here with the People's producer, Nia Campbell. And Nia, you and I left the stream at noon. We had an hour break. Trump's open cabinet meeting was on when we left the stream. It remains on right now. A lengthy cabinet meeting at the White House with President Donald Trump and his cabinet. And it appears as though Pam Bondi is speaking right now. Let's go live back out to Washington, D.C. straight away as we start our afternoon version of Live Impact News, unless you have any words for the people, Nia.
I just wanted to say hello.
Okay, great. Hello to you too. Hello to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Let's go to Washington, D.C.
And of course, our antitrust division with Google, major settlement. Our attorneys are working on terrorism, TDA, MS-13, Antifa, President Trump. We've charged more than 500 defendants with assault on federal officers thanks to your directive. And also, we have dropped countless cases against Americans that were prosecuted under the Biden administration, including J6, COVID, FACE Act, and more. And as everyone knows, we cannot talk about pending grand jury investigations, but no one is above the law, and that includes what happened in Arctic frost. I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and happy holidays. Thank you for fighting for our country.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for allowing me to be at this table. When I came on board, I knew really none of you in this last year, and it's been a year, Mr. President, since I've had the pleasure to serve this country on the workforce. Everybody said the Department of Labor would be quiet, fly under the radar. You won't have to do too much. Absolutely not, because you made the American people realize the American dream is real for the American workforce. And it's been under your leadership, Mr. President, that over 2 million jobs that has been created since you started have been native-born workers. And that is the difference between this presidency, this administration, as opposed to the Biden administration, where mostly foreign-born or federal government jobs. And I think through the private sector, over 2 million jobs of native born. And so the Labor Department has wasted no time in putting that into action with our Make America Skilled Again, either grant dollars, but the intentionality of the apprenticeship program, 1 million active apprentices across this country. We have done over 250,000 new apprentices so far in the first year and registered over 2,000 new apprenticeship programs. Why do we need the apprenticeship programs with the men and women in the trades? Because of the leadership of onshoring and reshoring, and have a lot of these companies reinvest in America. We have to build this country. We cannot do that without the tradesmen and women and the craftsmen of this country. And I think that, Howard and I, we talked about that from the beginning, and we're going to have to lean in on that because we need the labor force, 700,000 new skilled jobs with electricians, construction workers, machinists, and so forth. And as I traveled with the Vice President as well, we see that on the manufacturing floors of this country, they're in desperate need. The Department of Labor are going to get the workforce skilled again. Working with Secretary McMahon as we move a lot of the education out to our respective states, we are now working together, and we have deployed $86 million in investments, and a lot of that is in AI infrastructure jobs to have our new workforce proficient and literate in AI if we're going to continue to lead the AI race, and we're working on that. And the Department of Labor is now creating and will soon launch the AI infrastructure and workforce hub, which we will be able to track that metrics to see exactly if these dollars are going correctly. Integrating education and workforce with obviously Administrator Loeffler and I are on the road a lot together because we're talking about Main Street as well as a lot of the manufacturing jobs, and how we're being an ally to our businesses as opposed to an adversary. For far too long under the Biden administration, we were adversaries to our business owners, and we want to give them a leg up always and make sure that we're paying attention. And we want our workforce to be educated. We do not need the numbers that we have seen across this country where our 4th through 8th graders cannot read, write, or do any math, and they are our future workforce. We have to depend on the American worker first. Also, lowering healthcare costs in line with the executive order. I'm working with Treasury and HHS, and rulemaking is underway to expand healthcare transparency and make pricing more affordable for our employers who offer these to their employees. Promoting retirement security. The department rescinded the Biden administration's guidance that restricted the use of crypto in the retirement investments, and we're seeing more and more of that, where we also rescinded the supplemental statement that discouraged the fiduciaries from considering the alternative assets for 401ks, and that will also come through the Department of Labor, that rulemaking. Ending abuse of cheap foreign labor at the expense of the American worker. We launched over 200 investigations into companies who will have abused and or fraudulently against the American worker. So Project Firewall was released. Thank you, Mr. President. We want the trained workforce, but we will root out the fraud and abuse, and we'll protect the American worker first. And slashing the job-killing regulations. The department has rescinded discriminatory DEI practices. And I will tell you, reducing compliance costs for businesses, as it was for DEI, has saved American businesses nearly $1 billion this year by just getting rid of DEI for that compliance cost that they've had to do. So, Mr. President, continuing to skill the American worker, the American workforce is going to be my mission. We have to do it faster. We have to do it quicker. We have to build so that the American people can realize that American dream that you have laid out so eloquently. And it's an honor to serve under this administration and to talk to the American workers who believe in the American dream again, the pride on their face, the pride of the American worker, the skilled men and women who build with their hands. It's an honor. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Very good job. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Mr. President, I am honored and frankly inspired to sit at this table with this incredible team of leaders that work every day for one and only one constituency, the American people. Not this group or that group, the American people. The price of energy that's very much on the mind of Americans. The biggest determinant of the price of energy is politicians, political leaders, and policies. That's what drives energy prices. Under your leadership, what we've seen in the United States is just a steady drop in the price of gasoline, a huge consumer cost for Americans. As you mentioned early on, well below $3 a gallon right now and trending downwards. There are a number of stations in the heartland of America with $1.99 signs flying today. That's simply impossible without the leadership and changes you've brought. Now, of course, you can go to California, where the average price of gasoline is between $4.50 and $5 a gallon today in California. That's just bad political leaders there and bad policies in California.
And taxes.
And taxes.
The taxes they charge on gasoline are just insane. Terrible.
And electricity prices is a very parallel story, but it's a bigger moving ship, so the changes are a little bit slower. But Americans are outraged at a roughly 30% rise in the average price of electricity across this country. But everything we are doing together is going to reverse that. Not just stop the rises, but start a downward trajectory in electricity prices. And I can say that with confidence, not because we think these policies will work. We know these policies will work, and I'll get to that in a second. We're going to stop closing power plants. We've already done that, of course. Stop closing the coal power plants and natural gas plants that were shut down. We've got over 30 gigawatts of generators just sitting there today, not allowed to run. Well, of course, we're fixing that immediately. We're going to bring on from our existing grid tens of gigawatts more capacity that'll drive down the cost of electricity. But if we look at the last 5 years to see what works and what doesn't work, the most Trump-aligned policies in the electricity sector were by, no surprise, one of your cabinet members, Secretary Burgum, for 8 years governor of North Dakota. Over the last 5 years, production and demand for electricity in North Dakota grew 35%. Think what data center boom's going to do. And what happened? Electricity prices went down. Didn't rise slowly. They actually went down those 5 years. That's the answer. Trump-aligned energy policies increase demand for electricity. Nebraska and Texas, more Trump-aligned states, had significant growth in demand for electricity. They had electricity price rises, but well below the price of inflation. Unfortunately, Biden brought all of us a lot of inflation. If you look at the other end of the spectrum, California, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, I could go on. What happened in those states? Policies and politicians that force the building of unreliable electricity generation, which requires new infrastructure and transmission lines. And what happened? Today they produce less electricity than they did 5 years ago. A lot of spending money and less electricity. What does that mean? Of course, much faster rises in the price of electricity. Blue states have had 1.5 times faster rise in electricity prices than red states. Red states alone, less than inflation. We need to bring those policies. You are bringing those policies to the national level. We hope the blue states will come along with us, but your policies are going to start the decline of electricity prices nationwide under your leadership by just bringing back common sense. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this team. For people here who are focused on winning, special thanks to Howard and Scotty who were there with me to see the Denver Broncos win on Monday night. Now we want nationwide wins on energy for 3 more years.
And we're doing more energy production than we've ever done by far right now.
Continue to be reset every year you're in office.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. President, thank you for giving me a very interesting job. Some days it's a little controversial too, but it's been an honor to work for you. You are a great American. The fights that you pick are the right fights, and they're always on behalf of this country. So I appreciate the chance to do this job heading up this department. If you think about what Joe Biden did with the Department of Homeland Security, he used this department to invade the country with terrorists. He opened up the borders, let anybody come in that wanted to. He put them on airplanes. He let them through our airports. If they could figure out a way to get to our shores and in our country, he just opened the door and invited them in. So it's our job to get them out. And I want to thank you for this team, because I look around the table and I think every single person here has helped me do my job over the last year. They've supported us at the border and given us resources. Marco negotiates all the travel documents and relationships with other countries to take their people home. 2 million people have gone home already. The people that were here illegally, you've removed from our country and sent home. And we're going to send more home for the holidays too, and make sure that they get to be with their families in their countries. Yes.
Mostly the bad ones.
That's right. Pam,
Focus is the bad ones.
that's right.
And there are a lot of them.
Terrible, horrible people. And Pam makes sure she's fighting for us in court so that we can get up every day and be bold. We're going to hire our 10,000th ICE officer. Will be on the job within 10 days. So we have hired 10,000. We've had hundreds of thousands of applications. We've got within the department, TSA went through this government shutdown without any delays. They all showed up for their shifts and worked hard doing security. And they have been absolutely fantastic. Sir, you made it through hurricane season without a hurricane.
Yeah.
And so FEMA, you kept the hurricanes away. So we appreciate that. And FEMA is deploying resources and dollars 150% faster than ever before. So somebody does have something bad that happens to them, you are immediately there helping them and telling them they have the resources to get back up on their feet. So we have built and deployed hundreds of miles of border already. You have cut the fentanyl flow over the southern border by over 56%. You've saved hundreds of millions of lives with the cocaine you've blown up in the Caribbean. And, you told me to look into Minnesota and their fraud on visas and their programs. 50% of them are fraudulent, which means that wacko Governor Walz either is an idiot or he did it on purpose. And I think he's both, sir. He brought people in there illegally that never should have been in this country, said they were somebody that they're not. They said they were married to somebody who was their brother or somebody else. Fraudulent visa applications, signed up for government programs, took hundreds of billions of dollars from the taxpayers, and we're going to remove them and we're going to get our money back, and we're going to this next year make sure that we only put people in leadership positions in this country that love this country and have its back. So thank you for letting us get up every day and have a purpose. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Mr. President, you're exactly right. We are saving this country. We're doing it one Main Street at a time, and we're doing it at record speed and at record levels. Under your leadership, small business optimism, according to the U.S. Chamber Index for small businesses, has reached an all-time high in the history of that index. So on Main Street, the economy is coming back thanks to your leadership, thanks to getting Biden inflation under control. Small businesses' number one concern right now is finding skilled labor, and that's why Secretary Chavez DeRemer and I have entered into an MOU to speed that workforce to small businesses that under this administration are now at record levels. 36 million small businesses have now taken on board, for the first time in the SBA's history, $100 billion. That's $45 billion in small business lending at 85,000 small businesses, most of that under your term, and $52 billion out to small business investment companies. So we are running this agency like the best run bank in the country. We are growing small businesses across Main Street, and we're deregulating to the tune of $100 billion, working with all my fellow cabinet members. And thank you for putting together the best cabinet in history. Iron sharpens iron, and thank you for bringing such a strong leadership group together. And then finally, I've walked factory floors from Alaska to Maine, and the workers, the small businesses, most manufacturers in this country are small businesses, 600,000 of them. They are so grateful to your fair trade, low inflation, deregulation agenda that is creating national security and economic security in this country like never before. And so I want to also finally thank you for bringing faith back to the White House, to this administration. I want to thank Brooke for hosting the Cabinet Bible Study and invite everyone tomorrow to Bible study and making this country something that we can be so proud of under your leadership. And I am so blessed and honored to be part of this team. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership. I am truly grateful to be a member of your team here at this table to help support you in delivering on the promises that you made to the American people. You came in with a very clear mandate of taking on the rampant weaponization, politicization of the intelligence community and federal law enforcement, experiencing yourself, the deep state abusing their power as they have against you, your family, and so many of the American people. Bring out accountability, truly, for those who have abused their power, making sure that the intelligence community is supporting your efforts in keeping the American people safe, secure, and free, and being the president of peace. I'm grateful to be in this position as your Director of National Intelligence to support you in these efforts, and I'll cover very briefly what we've done over the last year under your leadership and what we look forward to continuing to focus on next year. First of all, under your leadership, again, we've taken on a historic effort for transparency, declassification, and exposing these abuses of power by these deep state actors. We've declassified over 500,000 documents, many of which had never been seen before by the American people, put them online to bring about this level of transparency. We formed a weaponization working group, again, to be able to go after a lot of these abuses of power that have never seen the light of day, to support the accountability that under Pam Bondi's leadership in the Department of Justice is coming about. Secondly, bringing about reforms to the intelligence community to make sure that we have the most effective and efficient and focused workforce that's really working on bringing about the priorities you have laid out in ensuring our country's security. And lastly, Mr. President, working with many of our partners here around the table is going after these domestic threats. We have.
All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio, President Donald Trump's cabinet taking turns speaking about a number of different topics there as they go around the table. That cabinet meeting has been going on for some time. We'll keep an eye on it. If they open it up to the press or if any further developments occur, we'll go back out to Washington, D.C. For now, we want to check in on another live event that's going on out in San Francisco. City officials are talking about legal action against ultra-processed foods. Let's go out to San Francisco live right now.
Tobacco addiction and cancer on our communities decided to use that same technology, all their money, all their cunning to use that same science to create a whole new type of quasi-food, which is what this is, UPFs or ultra-processed foods. Without your knowledge and secretly, tobacco has hijacked our food system for decades. During this time, they've used psychological and marketing techniques that they developed for marketing and selling cigarettes to make and sell UPFs to the citizens of San Francisco with a specific eye to selling UPFs to children. Big Tobacco, now acting as Big Food, did all of this with the sole focus of making UPFs a staple of the American diet, despite their own absolute knowledge of the real health and societal damages that UPFs cause. Their sole focus, to make money. But they did that by knowingly placing the health of the people of San Francisco and the health of Americans at severe risk. We've all gone to the supermarket believing that we are buying food in the manner that we've understood food to be for thousands of years. But actually, we've been unknowingly purchasing UPFs. We reasonably relied on gross misrepresentations and lies by the defendants that UPFs were food and that they were convenient, and in many cases that they were healthy. But now we know that not only were those representations untrue, but that these commonplace products, gummy fruit snacks, Pop-Tarts, Hot Pockets, ready-made meals, and liquid cheese products actually change the way our children's bodies process food, and that these physiological changes were by design and with devastating effects to the people and the children of San Francisco. As you will hear shortly, my co-counsel Renee Rocha will provide additional context as it relates to UPFs, but we are very grateful to stand with the city attorney and the people of San Francisco in taking a historical stand in a historical case that will change the future of our children and grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Even though they're everywhere now, UPF have not been around for very long. They're new and alien to our bodies, and the science is undeniable. Ultra-processed food causes type 2 diabetes in kids. That disease never existed in children prior to the invention of ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods are driving the obesity crisis in San Francisco, California, and the United States. And they're driving cardiovascular diseases and early death. As we allege in our complaint, the defendants here, including food companies that were owned by the tobacco companies like Kraft Heinz, Mondelez, Post Holdings, knowingly created dangerous and addictive products. We also allege that they have persistently hidden the truth and lied about the effect of these products. They have caused a public nuisance and a public health crisis in San Francisco and beyond. And today, the city of San Francisco and the sovereign people of California stand up and say, enough. It's time for accountability and justice, and time to create a brighter future for our children, one with food that nurtures instead of harms. Today marks a major milestone in the history of public health, and we are confident that San Francisco and the people of California can help guide us into a new and better era. We appreciate their courage and are honored to be working on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker today comes from the medical establishment. San Francisco, we follow the facts, we follow the science, and we certainly listen to our doctors. We have a number of pillars from our medical community here, and I want to thank Dr. Sarita Senpathy, who's an internist, Dr. John Ma, who's a surgeon, and I'd like to bring up Dr. Kim Gruel-Green, who is an associate clinical professor at UCSF, to discuss the harms of these products that she has seen throughout her career as a physician.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Attorney General, City Attorney General. My name is Dr. Kim Newell-Green. I'm the past president of the San Francisco Marin Medical Society and a trustee of the California Medical Association. But I'm speaking here today as a pediatrician and a mom, where I am terrified about what ultra-processed foods are doing and have done to our kids and families. I see every day how they are impacting our kids, my patients, and all of our families. Research has shown that these foods now make up nearly 70% of the calories in children's diets in the United States. That means that most of what our kids eat does not resemble nutrient-rich foods like fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins, which are essential for growth and brain development. Adults consume more than 50% of their calories in these UPFs. Mounting research, as you've heard, increasingly links these ultra-processed foods to severe diseases. We've heard about obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. And even mental health and cognitive function are impacted in conditions like depression and ADHD. I have seen the unrelenting rise of these conditions in younger and younger children in my practice. I fight this every day in my household, and I am losing because these foods are so exciting and addictive to our kids. And this is not just a matter of me asking my kids and patients to make healthier personal choices. Aggressive marketing, low cost, and easy availability make ultra-processed foods the default option for many families, especially those in underserved and underrepresented communities. The consequences are profound: higher rates of chronic diseases, poorer academic performance, and long-term health costs for our city, our state, and our country. We must act, and I'm so grateful to be here standing aside this group. Like the successes of litigation against big tobacco and big soda, today's lawsuit is an important step towards holding food companies accountable for profiting for products that put our health at risk. Let's stop these companies from poisoning our children and our family. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. As we conclude and happy to open up for questions, I want to just take a moment and thank the incredible professionals in my office for their work. That includes Jesse Lanier, Ron Lee, Sarah Eisenberg, Yvonne Marais, and others. And I just noticed I've forgotten that someone had left my favorite can of Pringles underneath this, just on a random shelf. But as I mentioned before, when I was growing up, my mother used to bribe me with Pringles to get me into the pool to take the swim lessons. I still crave them to this day, but just in recent months I've learned about the specific harms of just this product alone that has been written about. So with that, if anyone wants some, you can take them off my hands. We're happy to answer any questions. Or, okay, go ahead.
James Toomey from the Daily Journal. We've known about the dangers of processed food, ultra-processed food for a long time. Why are you bringing this lawsuit now?
So a couple reasons. First and foremost, the science has really tipped here. There have been studies for many, many years, but all the massive data sets, all of the studies around the world show the link between ultra-processed foods and all of the horrific public health impacts that we've been talking about. The cancers, the diseases. It's almost every month that we are hearing from another reputable medical journal about this link. There are now many, many of these studies. The data is irrefutable.
With CBS News, the VP of the Consumer Brands Association says there's, quote, no scientific definition of ultra-processed foods, and these companies are making efforts to make their products healthier and safer by adding protein and fiber. What's your response to that?
So we've heard that from the industry. The industry likes to quibble on whether there's a definition or not. There's a very clear understanding of what ultra-processed foods are about. We're going to get into that in this lawsuit, but what we know is that there is an entire category of foods that represent 70% of the American food supply that is making the public sick, and that is what this is about. There are definitions that are out there that we will discuss in the lawsuit. It's referenced in our complaint, but we look forward to having that discussion in court. Yes?
The Consumer Brands Association is saying that these companies are keeping grocery prices down for consumers. Is there a way to provide healthy food at an affordable price for families?
First of all, absolutely. There are plenty of examples of affordable foods that are not ultra-processed, but I would say that diabetes is unaffordable. Heart disease is unaffordable. Obesity is unaffordable. These industries are peddling products that have caused Americans to be addicted and are leading to long-term costs that are absolutely unaffordable for all of us and are unaffordable for city and state governments around the country. I don't know if anyone else wants to add anything to that.
Just a follow-up question.
Yep.
Are you seeking to change marketing practices? Are you seeking to remove certain ingredients? Are you seeking to limit sales?
So there's nothing about the lawsuit that would ban any products, but it is our perspective that this is an industry that is engaged in highly deceptive advertising. So we're certainly looking to address advertising, and we certainly want to ensure accountability on the part of industries that has created enormous costs on society, on public health systems, on human beings. So we'll be looking to get accountability for those costs. Anyone else?
Does that look like monetary compensation or?
Absolutely. We will be seeking monetary compensation. Any final questions? If not, we have a bunch of folks here who are happy to do interviews. And with that, again, I just want to appreciate everyone standing with us and others who have worked with us on the filing of this lawsuit. The story will continue. Thank you very much.
All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio, we caught what appeared to be the second half of that press conference, and the big information to come out of that press conference, the city of San Francisco will file the nation's first government lawsuit against food manufacturers over ultra-processed foods. That announcement coming from that group today. So a major step here in the fight against foods that could be harmful to the body that have become a part of mass consumerism here in the United States. Within that press conference, various speakers compared big food to big tobacco. And it was announced that nothing about the lawsuit would ban products, but that they are looking to address advertising and ensure accountability for costs on society, and that they, of course, would be seeking monetary compensation. So a major lawsuit coming from the city of San Francisco against food manufacturers over ultra-processed foods, and they dove into some of the downsides that come with eating ultra-processed foods, the negative impacts on the body. Okay, that cabinet meeting is still going on in Washington, D.C. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is now speaking. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been a figure of enormous public interest here in the United States since he took office and even before that. And with this cabinet meeting still going on, I think maybe we will head back out to Washington, D.C. and rejoin the White House live. So let's head back into this cabinet meeting as Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. speaks to the president. In an open meeting to the press. All right.
So congratulations on that, Mr. President. When you first asked me to take this job, one of the first contacts we made was with a leading health economics professor at Harvard. And we asked him what's the one innovation that we could do that would most dramatically improve the health care experience for the average American. And he said there's no contest, it's to get rid of prior authorization. Thanks to your leadership, we were able to convene the largest insurance companies in this country and do something that every administration, every Congress has promised for the past 30 years. We actually got it done. We convened the insurance companies representing 280 million Americans and got them to agree, most of them by January of 2026, for 2 months from now, to remove prior authorization for most of their procedures, for all the procedures we want them removed from. And that means that American patients at the point of care will be able to get an answer immediately. If your doctor says you need knee surgery, you will know before you leave that doctor's office whether your insurance company will pay for it or not. Similarly, healthcare records the tech industry has refused to share healthcare records. You asked us to change that. We convened the 60 biggest tech companies at a conference that you presided over about 2 months ago. We now did a secondary conference, which 400 leading companies have all come in and agreed to remove any kind of blockages where individual Americans can get their own health care. Americans own their health care records, yet they were not able to access them. And if you lived in New Jersey and you moved to Oregon and you got injured, you went to a hospital, you would have to spend maybe 45 minutes filling out forms on a clipboard because your doctors there could not get your healthcare records. They couldn't get your blood type, your allergies, all the things they ought to know immediately so they can save your life. Now that has all changed, and all these companies now have agreed to remove all the blocks on sharing healthcare records. Every American will have their healthcare records available on their cell phones, and it's already happening. In the last 6 months, there have been over 100 times the number of healthcare records shared by hospitals than during the entire previous administration. On deregulation, HHS proudly is now leading the pack, and thank you for your help on that, Russ. But today we announced the revocation of the nursing home rule, which was overburdening rural areas across this country, Indian reservations, with regulations that were going to destroy the nursing home industry in those communities. And that is going to be a $25 billion savings. Those are some of the things that we're doing because of your leadership. President Trump, thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you very much. Great job. Ted?
Well, Mr. President, you've assembled an incredibly talented group here. If you took a look at this group compared to any Fortune 500 leadership team, any group of startup folks, I mean, this is an amazing group in the breadth of what's being accomplished. And the timing couldn't be better because with your leadership and vision, you've set us up for this age of abundance as we head into next year, the 250th anniversary of this country. And what are we heading into that year? As we've talked around the table, you've heard about massively lower taxes, massively lower regulation, abundant energy, record capital investment coming in, job growth. I mean, we are set up to really have something to celebrate next year. And I just, again, want to say thank you to everybody around the table. You gave us one big assignment in Interior. Of course, Interior, the largest balance sheet in the world. In the Department of Interior, if it was a standalone company, 500 million acres of surface, 700 million acres of subsurface, over 3 billion of offshore from Guam to the Virgin Islands. And you said, we got to take care of that balance sheet. We got to develop those resources. And what have we done across that? Producing record amounts of oil, record amounts of gas. And again, we set out with a goal, energy diplomacy, sell energy to our friends and allies. We're exporting a record amount of energy to all of our friends and allies around the world. That's helping do that. And you're giving a gift to America as we head into this. You're giving us peace abroad, and you're giving us prosperity at home. That bodes so well for our country. One small little gift that we're giving to all Americans from one teeny part of Interior, which is the national parks, is that not only are we keeping prices low for all American citizens, offering 10 free days for our national parks next year to coincide with our holidays, but also a $100 surcharge for non-residents. That is going to raise hundreds of millions of dollars for helping restore and preserve all of our best parks. So as we close out with it, I want to also say a big celebration going on here in Washington, D.C. We've been thrilled to be part of the National Park Service, the U.S. Park Police, part of this great effort across a number of us on making D.C. safe and beautiful. This will be the safest and most beautiful capital in the world. We are doing so many things, whether it's hundreds of homeless camps, thousands of graffiti sites, cleaning up ponds and fountains, preparing this thing. The United States is never going to be performing better economically. It's never going to be looking better, just like the White House has never looked better, all because of your vision and leadership. So again, thank you, sir. You've given an incredible Christmas gift to Americans by setting us up for an incredible 250th anniversary.
That's very nice. Thank you, Ted, very much. Marco?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. First of all, this is a very talented team, as you've seen, and as you know, because you picked every single one that's on. You deserve tremendous credit for doing that. It's an honor to be in this role. It's also an honor to be involved in and be a witness to what I believe is the most transformational year in American foreign policy since the end of the Second World War, at least. And it's transformational because for the first time in a long time, we have a president who basically puts America at the forefront of every decision we make in our relations with the world. And that may sound weird to people, like, of course you always do. No, that hasn't always been the case until about a year ago. And I think we've all witnessed in our own respective spaces how in every interaction the president has with the world, the goal he has in mind is very simple. Does what you want us to do, or is it what we're going, or is it going to make us stronger? Is it going to make us richer? Is it going to make us safer? If it is, he's for it. If it's not, he's against it. If something's going to make America weaker or poorer or less safe, the president's going to be against it. And every single thing he has done in our foreign policy has been driven by the American people in mind. And I can go down the list. Why has he focused on mass migration? It's very simple, because no country is safe if you can just walk in without us knowing who you are into your country. We've seen the destruction that that's wreaking, not just in our own country, but the impact that it's having in Europe and in many other parts of the world. You talk about trade deals and the trade situation has been involved in. People, all this reporting on it. It's very simple. The president views the last 40 years as an era of which American workers and American farmers have been ripped off. They've been ripped off, and what he's saying is we want to have trade with the world, but it has to be a trade in which American businesses and American workers and the products they make and what American farmers grow and produce has a fair shot to be sold around the world. On issue after issue, that's been the case. You talk about foreign aid reforms. This is not our money. This is taxpayer money. When the president has said, we're going to do foreign aid, but we're going to do foreign aid for countries that are aligned with the United States and in a way that doesn't waste the taxpayers' money. Mr. President, you deserve tremendous credit for that. Many of us, the Vice President, by the way, I want to acknowledge, has played an extraordinary role in our foreign policy, and he too has been a witness to all of this as it's been occurring, and he's been a big part of it as well. You talk about NATO. The president's not against NATO. He went to NATO and basically said, look, you guys, we're paying all the money, and he got them to do the 5% commitment, which everybody said was never going to happen. It was impossible. Everything this president does is driven by the American people. Whether you don't have to agree with the actual move, but understand the motivation. The motivation is always you, the American people, and what's good for you, for your family, for the country, and for our economy. But the president is also committed to peace in a way that all of us have seen. He achieved in Gaza, and he does it, by the way, not just because he hates war and he thinks wars are a waste of money and lives, but because he's the only leader in the world that can. No other leader in the world could have pulled off what happened in Gaza. And I can tell you, I can't get into the details. The Vice President knows what I'm talking about. That deal doesn't happen without the president's direct interaction with the leaders that were involved in this decision making. And everyone said that deal couldn't hold. And then the president shepherded through the United Nations of all places to get a global coalition of countries to line up behind the peace deal, behind the border peace. And it's still, every day is a challenge. But it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started, it never would have happened if you'd been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it, not because, listen, we got a million things to focus on in the world as a country, but he's the only leader in the world that can help end it. And that's why even as we speak to you now, Steve Witkoff is in Moscow trying to find a way to end this war, to save lives of 9,000 people, Mr. President, as you know, are dying every week. More people are dying a week in that war than have died in the entirety of the U.S.'s involvement in Afghanistan or Iraq. Just think about that, how bloody and destructive it is. The president's taken on this issue of Sudan personally, not send out deputies to do it. Again, far away from the United States, because he's the only leader in the world that can bring it about to an end, not to mention all the other peace deals, very dangerous ones like India and Pakistan, or Cambodia and Thailand. And so on all these things, Mr. President, I think you deserve tremendous credit for the transformational aspect of our foreign policy. For the first time in probably 4 decades, the American foreign policy is driven by what is good for America and Americans. Whether it makes us safer and stronger and more prosperous. If it is, he's for it. If it doesn't, he's against it. And that sort of clarity is transformational. I close with this, and I know I'm last, so I wanted to be fast, but there was a lot to cover. I do want to say this is the most wonderful and magical time of the year. By that, of course, I'm referring to the college football playoffs. And I just want to say this as a point of personal privilege. and I'm a Florida Gator, but if the University of Miami gets screwed out of the college football playoffs after going 10-2 and beating Notre Dame, the whole thing should be scrapped, and you're going to have to take over next year.
Well, thank you all very much. It was terrific. I hope it wasn't too long, but it was very concise, and we've done a lot. This group has done a lot. Amazing. Everybody at this table has done a fantastic. And Susie, thank you for doing a great job as our chief of staff. First female chief of staff in the history of our country, which is pretty amazing when you think of it, right? And she's the best. Thank you very much. Great job. So after that, do you want to ask any questions?
Mr. President, thank you so much, Mr. President. There's been a lot of speculation about who the next Fed chairman could possibly be. You said you have somebody in mind.
Yeah.
How many names were you given on the final list? And does that person currently work on the board of the Federal Reserve?
Well, I'd say that we probably looked at 10. And Scott interviewed some people that I didn't know, but he knew. And a lot of people were involved in the process, actually, and Howard was involved. But I think we probably looked at 10, and we have it down to 1.
Can you answer that is? I want to ask you about Elon Musk, if I could. You talked about Elon Musk. You had him at dinner here in the White House. Is he now back in your circle of friends?
Well, I really don't know. I mean, I like Elon a lot. He was he really helped during the election with his endorsement. He felt strongly. Look, we had one problem. You know, I didn't want to have everybody have to have an electric car, and he makes electric cars. And yeah, I think we get along well.
Mr. President, thank you. Yeah, one more. Yeah, when you talk about affordability, is going forward, are the American people, do you believe, getting impatient with the reforms that you're making? They've talked about it's about.
I think they're getting fake news from guys like you. Look, affordability is a hoax that was started by Democrats who caused the problem of pricing, and they didn't end it. Look, they lost in a landslide. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote. We won everything. You take a look at districts. It was 2,750 to 525, because that was an affordability problem. We brought it down. Look at energy. Look at the gasoline price. That's like the simplest, and it's the biggest, because if energy comes down, everything comes down. That's the way it works. We're going to be at 250. You said 199 in some places in the country, right? You said it. I didn't say it. And they won't check you. They'll check me. So, you know, I like to use your number. 199 a gallon. Unthinkable if you go back a year and a half ago. It's unthinkable. So, no, we're bringing the prices down, way down. Beef is coming down now. We've done certain magic, and beef is coming down. But we inherited horrible prices. We inherited really the worst inflation in history. We inherited that. When I came in, that's what he had. And we fixed inflation. And we fixed almost everything, if you want to know the truth, including 8 wars. We got 1 to go. But including 8 wars. But when they always say, I watched today where they have a race going on right now in Tennessee, and this woman goes, affordability, affordability. They're the ones that caused the problem. The prices were way high. We're bringing the prices down. But they're like scam artists. You know, they're I call them con men and women. They come out, they say affordability, like, oh, I see the price. We're going to get prices down still further. But we brought them down from the prices they cost. The reason that they had the highest inflation in the history of our country is because they had the highest prices. But we brought them down, and now we have normal inflation. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for taking questions with your assembled cabinet. I wanted to clarify something that you had said on Sunday regarding the boat strikes near Venezuela. You had said that you didn't know if the second strike on that one boat had happened, but you wouldn't have wanted it. Now that your administration has acknowledged that it happened, do you support that second strike? And Mr. Secretary, I wanted to clarify something you had said in an interview back in September, I believe on Fox News. You said that you would watch that strike live on television. In real time, did you know that there were survivors after the initial strike?
Well, look, all I know is this. Every boat that you see get blown up, we save 25,000 on average lives, 25,000 lives. They've been sending enough of this horrible fentanyl and other things like cocaine and other things, but fentanyl right now is the leader of the pack, to kill our entire nation, because a little speck on the head of a pin can kill somebody. It's very dangerous stuff. I know so many people where their sons were drug addicts. They had one little sample, and they died. They died. They couldn't believe it. As far as the attack is concerned, I still haven't gotten a lot of information because I rely on Pete. But to me, it was an attack. It wasn't 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this, they had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with 2 people. I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this, I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea. And there's very little coming in by sea. I think we've knocked out over 90% of it. There's very little, and I understand that. There's very little. We're saving hundreds of thousands of lives with those pinpoint attacks. It's an amazing thing when you see a boat going along, and a lot of the press would like to say they're not. You see the boat, they're not maybe drugs. You see these boats. First of all, who has 5 engines on the back of a boat going in weird directions and loaded up with lots of white containers? They're bags of things. No, they've done an amazing job, and Peter's done an amazing job. Pete, you could probably better answer the question.
No, you're spot on, sir. I think you got to start with the baseline, which Marco laid out, everybody's laid out. We've got 20 million people invading our country over 4 years. We don't know where they're coming from. That includes Tren de Aragua and cartels and violent criminals. They bring drugs, and you mentioned it, Mr. President, poisoning, an intentional poisoning of the American people, killing hundreds of thousands of Americans. So the president had the courage to designate these cartels as designated terrorist organizations. Now, a number of us here served in the military and spent 20 years fighting terrorists like Al-Qaeda and ISIS on the other side of the world. How do you treat Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Do you arrest them and treat them, pat them on the head and say, don't do that again? Or do you end the problem directly by taking a lethal, kinetic approach? And that's the way President Trump has authorized the War Department to look at these cartels. And I wish everybody could be in the room watching our professionals like Mitch Bradley, Admiral Mitch Bradley, and others at JSOC and SOCOM and other commanders. The deliberative process, the detail, the rigorous, the intel, the legal, the evidence-based way that we're able to, with sources and methods that we can't reveal here, that make sure that every one of those drug boats is tied to a designated terrorist organization. We know who's on it, what they're doing, what they're carrying. All these white bales are not Christmas gifts from Santa. This is drugs running on 4-motor fast boats or submarines that we've also struck. No one's fishing on a submarine. And I have empowered them to make that call. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do, and by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back. And the American people are safer because narco-terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters. President Trump has empowered commanders to do what is necessary, which is dark and difficult things in the dead of night on behalf of the American people. We support them, and we will stop the poisoning of the American people.
And Mr. Secretary, on the second strike, you said it happened more than an hour after the first. Did I hear it correctly?
I couldn't tell you the exact amount of time.
Minutes, or you went off the road, is what you're saying.
I already stated my answer quite clearly.
So remember this, we lost last year, I think it was more than that, but you know, people don't like saying it because they always said 100,000, 115,000, numbers we've been hearing for years. So we lost last year more than 200,000 people, dead people, ruined families beyond the 200,000. And those 200,000, that family will never be the same. But these people have killed over 200,000 people, actually killed over 200,000 people last year. And those numbers are down. Those numbers are down. They're way down. And they're down because we're doing these strikes. And we're going to start doing those strikes on land, too. You know, the land is much easier. It's much easier. And we know the routes they take. We know everything about them. We know where they live. We know where the bad ones live. And we're going to start that very soon, too.
Mr. President, thank you so much, Mr. President.
You know what, when we start that, we're going to drive those numbers down so low. And then you're going to have families be able to live without the fear of their son or daughter just having a pill to have a little fun and ending up dying within a period of 60 seconds, right? No, we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it continue to happen. What Biden did to this country by allowing all these people, and I call them animals in many cases, I think they're animals, to come into our country and destroy our country and let all those drugs pour in. Let people just walk across the border like it was nothing. You look at them, a lot of them, you know, you say, oh, let's not discriminate. I'm not talking about color. I'm just talking about you look into the eyes of some of these people. We're smart. And you see a killer. Come on in. Just come on in. 11,888 murderers. Many of them committed more than one murder. He allowed them into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. But he also allowed drugs to come in at record numbers. And hundreds of thousands of people a year died. And we're taking those son of a bitches out, yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for taking our questions. I think this is the most transparent administration I have ever seen.
I'm impressed by these people. I'll tell you, how strong are you? You've been holding it for 2 hours. You know, there are very few physically. There are very few people who could do that. I'm very proud of you. Whoever the hell you are, I have no idea who you are, but you're strong.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, last week, militia groups in Iraq attacked the Kurdistan region's gas field, the largest gas field, which even the U.S. companies invested in the energy sector in the Kurdistan region. And the Kurdistan Prime Minister requested the United States to provide them some sorts of means and defense system to defending their civilian infrastructure and U.S. investment in the Kurdistan region. Are you willing to providing them this support? And if I had this question, tomorrow the United States is going to open and integrate one of the...
Can you speak louder?
Yeah, of course.
Is that possible? You're the most gentle, beautiful voice, but you're a very gentle person. Go ahead. Just take fewer words and louder.
Yeah, sure. I will repeat my first question. Last week, the Iraqi militia groups attacked one of the largest gas fields in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, which even the U.S. companies have invested in these gas fields.
Yeah.
And then,
are you from Iraq?
I'm from Kurdistan, Iraqi Kurdistan.
Okay.
Yeah. Working for Ruda Media Network. And the Kurdistan region prime minister, he requested the United States to providing them some sorts of defense system to defending these gas fields and U.S. investment in the Kurdistan region. Are you willing to helping them?
Well, we're going to look at it. I heard about it, and I'm hearing about it more now, frankly. It wasn't at the top of my list. It's a very unusual question, I think, but I assumed you're from the area, and to you it's a very important question, and to me it is also, because people are being killed. I will say this, Iraq has been much different in terms of us than they were prior to us taking out the nuclear capability of Iran. You know, Iran has gone down many, many steps in terms of its fear factor. They were the bully of the Middle East, and they're really not the bully of the Middle East anymore. And Iraq was being bullied by Iran. We had a president that thought it was brilliant to blow them up, and they blew them up, and all of a sudden, instead of having a power that was basically equal to Iran, they had Iran ruling the Middle East for a long period of time. But Iraq, from the day we hit them with those B-2 bombers and knocked out and obliterated, because CNN said, well, maybe it wasn't total obliteration. Well, it turned out it was totally obliteration. It was every single one of those missiles hit its target. It was actually amazing, but it was wiped out, totally wiped out. I will tell you, Iraq has been a much friendlier place. They talk to us. The Prime Minister actually nominated me along with about 78 other countries for the Nobel Prize. I'm the only one that was nominated by almost 100 countries that didn't get it. But that's okay. But I saved a lot of lives. I saved a lot of lives. But Iraq nominated us for the Nobel Prize, and that was a great honor. You know, we didn't expect that from Iraq. Iraq has been a much different place since the taking out of Iran the nuclear capability. Yeah, let's get to another question. Here we go. This guy's a beauty. Go ahead.
Secretary Rubio mentioned your meetings ongoing in Russia today. Do you have any update from Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner?
No, because I've been spending too much time with you. I mean, we're spending a lot of time in here. We wanted to do this you talk about being open and transparent. This has to be the most transparent administration in history. We spent a lot of time answering your questions and giving you a lot of good, good results. I mean, I think everybody here gave you good results. But no, I don't. I will have after I leave here.
But do you hope for a breakthrough, or is it not?
I don't know. Look, I don't know. All I can tell you is that we're trying very hard to save 25 to 30,000 people, mostly men, mostly soldiers, every month. 25,000 to 30,000 soldiers. It's impossible. That's half a stadium. Take a big football stadium. Take half of those people in a stadium, and they're wiped out. They're killed every month. It's crazy. That war is crazy. It would have never happened with me, and it didn't happen for 4 years.
And you just mentioned potential land strikes. Can you elaborate anything on that?
I'll elaborate. If they come in through a certain country or any country, or if we think they're building mills for whether it's fentanyl or cocaine. I hear Colombia, the country of Colombia, is making cocaine. They have cocaine manufacturing plants, okay? And then they sell us their cocaine. We appreciate that very much. But yeah, anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
So not necessarily just Venezuela?
No, not just Venezuela, no. Venezuela's been very bad. Venezuela's been really bad in something else, probably worse than most, but a lot of other people do it too. They would send murderers into our country. They would empty their jails into our country. They sent people into our country that we don't want. They sent their drug dealers and their drug people into our country. They sent people from their mental institutions into our country, and we're getting them out. That was bad. That was real bad. And they also sent drugs. Yeah.
On Tim Walz, Mr. President, do you think he should resign over the fraud scandal in his state?
And who should?
Tim Walz, over the fraud scandal in his state.
Look, I think the man's a grossly incompetent man. I thought that from the day I watched J.D. destroy him in the debate. I was saying, who was more incompetent, that man or my man? I had a man and he had a man. They were both incompetent, and I had a man and a woman. I thought she was very incompetent too, but now she's leading the field, and I think she's leading the field in this for the nomination. Anyway, look, that's up to them. That's up to the Democrats. You know, the problem with them is they have really bad policy. And I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want them to change it necessarily. Because I want to run against it, whether it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody that's going to probably sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people sitting at this table. Could be a couple of people running together sitting at this table, you know. But I want them to win because we've done a great job for this country, and I want that to be carried forward. And you know, I think we have a tremendous bench, really a tremendous bench. But No, I think that Waltz is a grossly incompetent man. There's something wrong with him, okay? There's something wrong with him. And when you look at what he's done with Somalia, which is barely a country, you know, they have no anything. They just run around killing each other. There's no structure. And when I see somebody like Ilhan Omar, who I don't know at all, but I always watch her for years. I've watched her complain about our Constitution, how she's being treated badly. Our Constitution, the United States of America, is a bad place. Hates everybody, hates Jewish people, hates everybody. And I think she's an incompetent person. She's a real terrible person. But when I watch what is happening in Minnesota, the land of 1,000 lakes, or however many lakes they have, they got a lot of lakes, but this beautiful place, and I see these people ripping it off, and now I'm understanding, and you're going to look at that, Scott, I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars, and they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I can say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, has Maduro offered to leave?
Yes. Come this way. Come.
Okay, so that is the conclusion of the cabinet meeting, a lengthy cabinet meeting today in the White House in Washington, D.C. Every cabinet member spoke that we saw that was at the table, and then a question and answer session as well. Let's touch on what was just spoken about right there at the end. Let's add a little bit of context to what we're hearing. There is a situation in Minnesota where 86 individuals have been charged in connection with multiple massive fraud schemes. 78 of those defendants identified as Somali immigrants or of Somali descent. So 78 people, a part of the 86 arrested in connection with multiple massive fraud schemes. However, if we look at the totality of the Somali community in Minnesota, refugees began coming to the state from Somalia in the 1990s to escape war and violence. And reporting from KARE 11, our sister station in Minnesota, says that there are over 80,000 Somali refugees or immigrants in Minnesota, living in Minnesota at this time. So it is certainly a large community, over 80,000 living in Minnesota that are Somali immigrants or of Somali descent. 78 individuals identified by federal prosecutors in connection with multiple massive fraud schemes that are Somali immigrants or of Somali descent, and 86 total individuals charged in connection with those multiple massive fraud schemes. So some added context to what was spoken about there right at the end of that cabinet meeting from President Donald Trump. Let's speak about another topic that came up when Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was speaking. Okay, he talked about prior authorization. Prior authorization, a major focus for his health department based on what he was saying in that cabinet meeting. What is prior authorization? Well, health.harvard.edu describes prior authorization as the approval for your health insurance that may be required for a service, treatment, or prescription to be covered by your plan if it's not an emergency. Prior authorization does not guarantee payment, but it does make it more likely that your health plan will cover the cost. So that is prior authorization. Now, what we do have is we have a report from the Health and Human Services Department from June of 2025, in which Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Oz from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services met with industry leaders in the healthcare industry to discuss a pledge that they made that included 6 key reforms related to prior authorization, or at least related to cutting red tape when it comes to health insurance. So it's a pledge from major health insurance corporations to enact 6 key reforms. Now, what is involved in that pledge? Well, the standardization of electronic prior authorization submissions using fast healthcare interoperability resources-based application programming interfaces. I know that is complex. That is one of the 6 points of this pledge. To standardize electronic prior authorization submissions using the FHIR-based application programming interface. Another, to reduce the volume of medical services subject to prior authorization by January 1st of 2026. To honor existing authorizations during insurance transitions to ensure continuity of care. Number 4, to enhance transparency and communication around authorization decisions and appeals. Number 5, to expand real-time responses to minimize delays in care with real-time approvals for most requests by 2027. And number 6, to ensure medical professionals review all clinical denials. So that, again, is a pledge from health insurance corporations to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services regarding prior authorization and the prior authorization system. It's something we'll continue to monitor to see if those reforms take effect and start to have an impact once we get into 2026 and beyond, when they are slated to begin taking effect. So, added context to some of what you heard in that cabinet meeting from various cabinet members. Now we're going to switch gears here. This is going to be a little bit of a turn that we're going to take. We are monitoring a press conference to come from the Minneapolis mayor and other city officials regarding something we just talked about, which is the Trump administration targeting Somali immigrants, something that has been happening for some time now, even before this past fraud scandal came to light. We are waiting on a potential press conference to start. That's at the top of your screen there. We're keeping an eye on that. We've been told it should be starting at some point here soon, but it has not yet begun. And so with that press conference not starting yet, we are actually going to head out to a memorial for a corrections officer killed in the line of duty who was based out of Virginia. That is where we are going to go now. It is a memorial service for Master Corrections Officer Jeremy Lewis Hall. So he was killed in the line of duty at River North Correctional Center following an attack by an inmate. Let's go live out to that memorial right now for Jeremy Lewis Hall.
He would have said, I was just doing my job. A job he took because we decided we wanted to settle down, come off the road, and be close to the family that he loved. Funny how we ended up here. We actually bought Captain Brown's house. And when we looked at it, we saw the uniforms in the closet. Our home, the land, the creek, our mini mountain as we called it, all the things he always talked about wanting. He was so excited to get his blacksmith shop up and running again.
Extract the information from the device.
And now I think that we'd be here less than 2 years later. But as Jeremy would want, there are no regrets. Jeremy had a unique way of guiding every interaction with others to be exactly what that person needed in the moment. An ER nurse messaged me to the ER staff, but to the inmates as well. He'd advocate for their comfort and care and treated them as humans. She recalled one time she was giving meds. They were talking and laughing about some joke Jeremy probably told, and the inmate said, "We love Hall. He's a good dude." Jeremy's passion for his family, his ability to create something out of almost nothing will be missed. His true joy for nature, the outdoors, and the creativity in one matched. Before I finish, I want to share a few funny things. Some of you may not know this, some of you might, but I am not from here. And Jeremy used to tell the B&G team that I was his liberal-leaning Yankee wife. And he taught me a few things. Dirt roads are not all driveways. Sweet peppers all come from the same seed. You just got to leave them on the vine a little bit longer. Yeah, no clue. Guns aren't all bad. I even own one now. And most of all, he taught me how to love myself and appreciate all that I bring to the people around me. So I ask today and every day that you never forget his name and the sacrifice that he made on November 17th. For those of you that worked for him, with him, honor him by doing the job exactly like he did. Fair, firm, and consistent. There isn't enough to say about him because he was always just more. I sure do love you, Jeremy.
Thank you for that. And I say this to the entire Hall family, no words can reach the depth of your loss. But I do pray that you can feel the depth of our love today and going forward. We gather today because the Commonwealth must say with one voice that Jeremy Lewis Hall lived as a protector, a craftsman, a husband, a father, and a friend, and that he gave his full measure of devotion in the service of others. If you only knew Jeremy by the uniform, you missed the bigger picture. Those who served beside him and those who loved him would tell you he was the kind of friend that you would hope would show up when something needed fixing, and especially if something needed welding. He was the colleague whose laugh turned an ordinary shift into a lighter one. That's important. He had that toboggan. Everyone's going to tell you about the toboggan. I got to get a toboggan. I have a picture of it now. Somehow wearing that toboggan made sense no matter what time of year it was, I guess. Jeremy was firm, fair, and consistent, not just on a post, but in his life. Firm, fair, consistent. That's what we strive for in our profession. Firm enough to keep people safe. Fair enough to earn cooperation and respect. Consistent enough that everyone knows where the lines are and what is expected. You know, Jeremy just kind of always believed things would be okay. And he worked like a man determined to make it so. As I've met with members of our Virginia Department of Corrections team in recent days, including our family at River North, I met men and women who showed up in the hardest hour to keep their post, to care for one another, and to protect the Commonwealth. That's courage. That's real courage. That's the very heart of corrections. And it is the courage that Jeremy lived. In the days since we lost Jeremy, my phone has rung from literally every corner of this nation. Directors, commissioners, secretaries, some of the people you see in this room that came from California and Texas and Ohio and Michigan and Rhode Island, and I'm going to miss a bunch. Thank you all for being here. These are people who understand the weight of what we do in corrections. They've reached out to say, we are with you. My desk is stacked.
All right, back here in the Live Impact News studio after listening in to the memorial for Corrections Officer Jeremy Lewis Hall for a moment. We're back here in the studio because we're going to throw it out to Minneapolis, where Mayor Jacob Frey has taken to the podium as they speak about the Trump administration's attacks on Somali immigrants in recent days, something we just talked about at length after that cabinet meeting and that was mentioned by President Trump himself in said cabinet meeting. Let's go live out to Minneapolis, hear what the mayor has to say.
Focus on targeting our Somali community. To our Somali community, we love you and we stand with you. That commitment is rock solid. Minneapolis is proud to be home to the largest Somali community in the entire country. They've been here for decades in many instances. They're entrepreneurs and fathers. They benefit both the culture and the economic resilience of our city. Targeting Somali people means that due process will be violated, mistakes will be made. And let's be clear, it means that American citizens will be detained for no other reason than the fact that they look like they are Somali. That is not now and will never be a legitimate reason. For decades, the Somali community has added greatly to our city. The economic fabric, their hard work, their leadership, it has made Minneapolis a better place. We are not given advance notice or inside information about these kinds of operations. But here's what we can promise. We will not compromise our values here in Minneapolis. Our values and our commitment to the Somali community, to every community of immigrants and people in our city, is rock solid and will be unwavering. Our police, many of whom are Somali themselves, are trusted partners in keeping people safe. They will not collaborate with any federal agency around doing immigration enforcement work. Our city staff and our law enforcement will not ask the question as to whether an individual is documented or not. And by the way, there are more than 80,000 Somali people living in Minnesota. Almost all of them are both documented and citizens. And the city has worked with community partners who have compiled Know Your Rights information. And so here's what we know. You have the right to remain silent, and you have the right to a lawyer. You can refuse to sign documents until that lawyer is present. You have the right to not open the door unless a warrant has been shown. The city of Minneapolis provides free immigration legal resources. And if you or a family member or a loved one needs access to a lawyer, go to our website or call 311. And we're going to work with our partners. Partners like the city of St. Paul. Partners like the state of Minnesota. To do everything to support our neighbors and to coordinate on any incident that happens. Obviously, this is a frightening moment for our Somali community. There have been many frightening moments over the last several months to our immigrant communities in Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, our diversity is diverse. People come from 1,000 different backgrounds, mentalities, and perspectives with one beautiful thing in common. They love our city and they're proud to call it home. And we're going to stand with them every step of the way. But we need to also be demanding better from an administration who is intent on targeting people and committing so much time, energy, and money to terrorizing certain groups within our community. That's not American. That's not what we are about. And we're going to do right by every single person in our cities. And so, to our Somali community, Daman Shabka, Somaliyed Kunul, Minnesota, Garahan, Minneapolis, Waan, Ku Janila Hai, Waan, Ku Gereb, Taganahan. We love you. We stand with you, and we aren't backing down. With that, I will turn it over to the Mayor of St. Paul, Mayor Melvin Carter.
Good afternoon. I'm Melvin Carter, the Mayor of the City of St. Paul. As Mayor Fry just said, we are hearing credible information around a convergence of federal law enforcement officials, federal agents coming into our community with the intentionality around targeting our Somali community. Just earlier today, we saw, sadly, the President of the United States open his mouth to take a whole group of people, a whole country of people, and denigrate just based on where they come from. And somehow we found ourselves to a place where that doesn't surprise any of us. But when the mayor said the word un-American, it rang true to me. I grew up celebrating in America and learning about an America who prided ourselves on being a beacon that drew people from other places. I grew up in an America that prided itself on being a country of immigrants, that prided itself on the fact that people from other countries would look across a whole ocean and say, that's where I want to be. It seems that what we learned was that we've prided ourselves, and we have decades and generations of priding ourselves on being a beacon for immigration from Europe. I mean, it seems to many of us like the darker skinned the immigrants who come to our country are, the more our posture on immigration as a country has shifted. That's un-American. That's concerning. And I get particularly concerned as someone who, we work all day, every day on public safety and keeping our communities safe. And all of you have heard me brag about the public safety outcomes that we're achieving and that we're really proud of. And we've understood and embraced an approach to public safety that isn't about pitting our officers or law enforcement against community members, but it's figuring out how to get our officers and our community members working together on the same side of the table as much as humanly possible. And so when the last thing that we need is federal agents coming here, pretending that we should be afraid of somebody just based on the color of their skin, just based on what they look like, just based on what country their ancestors claim as honor as a motherland. The last thing that we need is federal agents coming to town attempting to turn us against each other, to turn us against ourselves. The last thing we need is federal agents coming in town to create chaos and challenge for us. And so we stand together. Both of our cities have stood up immigrant and refugee services supports. In St. Paul, it's our Office of Immigrant and Refugee Services in our city attorney's office. We encourage folks to look to those websites. We encourage folks to look to the organizations that serve immigrants and refugees across our community, because we have constant reminders out there about what your rights are. You have rights. That's an American thing. You have rights. We all have rights. And so we'll be sharing on social media today some of those resources are that people need to look to. We'll be working with our police department to ensure our capability of facilitating peaceful protests, as I imagine we'll see some people who will want to stand up and say that we disagree with this federal targeting. And just like Mayor Fry just said, we in St. Paul celebrate our large Somali community. We celebrate the contributions that our community has made in every aspect, whether that's education, whether that's public service, whether that's public safety, whether that's our economics and local jobs. We celebrate that. Our community would not be the same without it. And so we continue to stand with the members of our Somali community. We continue to stand across municipal boundaries and across communities to say that the Twin Cities is not a place that tolerates or embraces hate. To say that the hateful and damaging rhetoric that we're hearing from Washington, D.C. right now is reprehensible. And it is not something that represents who our community is or who our country can be. And we call on ourselves. I call on myself in the face of hatred, in the face of division, in the face of what seems to be a strategy centered around intentional chaos, to lead with listening, to lead with compassion, to engage with humanity, and to ensure that we are every single day modeling the type of behavior, the type of approach, and the type of humanity that we sure wish our federal representatives in Washington, D.C. would follow suit. We have the capacity as a local community to be that loving, incredible place. That's who we are. That's what we are. And that's certainly something that we don't need federal agents coming and disturbing. Thank you all for being here. And with that, I think I'm turning over to Councilmember Ross. Oh, I'm sorry, to Councilmember Ross.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jamal Osman. I am the council member of Ward 6, someone who represents the largest East African community in Minneapolis. I am proud to say I'm a Somali American. This country welcomed me and my family 26 years ago. It has provided me a life that I did not have in Somalia. We came here and we are thankful to be here. I've been educated here, got the opportunity to serve my community, to be a council member. I know many families are fearful tonight. They are. But I want you to know that City of Minneapolis stand behind you as the leaders, both mayors and the chief and everyone that stand behind you are here to stand with you. Our community has lived through fear in the past. And we are not going to let us divide that. We're going to stay informed, we're going to stay safe, and we're going to support each other. We will continue to working our partners on the ground so residents know their rights. They know where to turn for help, and we know that Minneapolis will not abandon. One of the things I do want to say, and obviously everyone knows that our president is racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic, and we are going to fight that. America has a history of fighting and stopping those kind of individuals who continue to divide people and divide communities. Many Somalis that live in this community are working at your groceries, working at your hospitals, delivering your babies. They're doctors. They are very successful individuals. Now I would like to switch into Somali to speak to my community. Assalamu alaikum. Walaalayaal waxaan la hadlayaa community-ga magaalada Minneapolis. Anigoo ah Jamal Usman. Waxaan inii sheegayaa City Minneapolis garabka inay taagan tahay. Community-geena target ayaa lagu yahay. Qolyahan dalka soo galaya oo la sheegay hadda in 100 qof ka badan lagu soo wado. Waa inaan ka fijignaanaa. Waa inaan la hadashaa lawyer-kaaga. Waa inaan ogaataa rights-kaaga. United States rights ayaa ku leedahay. Waa inaan division aan la ku suubinin. Xaquuq baa u leedahay due process baa jira dalkan aan joogno. Marka taxadara City Minneapolisna waa in la taaganta garabkeena in taaganta. Thank you so much. I would like to welcome the chief of her.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N, O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. I know the recent reports that are circulating among the media are concerning. I just want to be clear. We are not confirming anything that has been in any of these reports, and we don't have any official information ourselves. What we are aware of is what has been happening in our community. And our involvement, the mayor's leadership on that, council members and other elected officials in the city did not start today. That's been going on. The fear that the community has been experiencing, immigrant communities have been experiencing in this city is real. We have been meeting, I have been meeting with pastors, imams, business owners that are having a real impact in our city. People are afraid to go to church. They're afraid to go to worship. They're not spending money at a lot of our immigrant businesses in the city. And from a public safety perspective, the fear of people to cause the police is something that to call the police in a time of need is something that harms everyone. We don't need that. If people are able to prey on certain people in our community, to victimize them, to rob them, because they think those folks are less likely to call the police, that makes everyone in the city less safe. It does absolutely nothing for public safety. So I just need to be clear, as our mayor has stated, the Minneapolis Police Department does not work with federal law enforcement for the purpose of conducting immigration enforcement. We don't provide information to federal immigration authorities. We don't ask people about their immigration status. Our mission is clear: to protect life, to uphold the law, and to maintain safety for all people in our communities. Over the last 24 hours, I have addressed every roll call in this city, from last night into this morning. Not because of these news reports, but because I have been concerned. Both over the weekend, we've been getting reports, increased reports of immigration-related activity from members in our community. We can't verify that, but we know people in the community are heightened, and we also know that there have been incidents more recently, two very recently in St. Paul, around immigration enforcement. So our objective is straightforward as a police department. I want to try and minimize our officers' exposure to any of that type of enforcement activity and only respond when there is a legitimate public safety issue that we are responsible to our community to provide. And that means when there are threats of violence, when there is actual violence, or when there's property destruction. In moments like this, I know the tensions are high. I know how real the fear is in our community. People are going to want to speak out, to protest, and to exercise their First Amendment rights. Those are the rights of everyone in our community. And I want to be clear that we will absolutely defend people's rights to do just that. I also ask that if demonstrations do happen around any type of immigration raid, that they remain nonviolent so that we can keep everyone in our community safe, so that we minimize the risk of any tragedy happening or the immigrant communities that are already suffering to suffer that much more if there is destruction in our neighborhoods. Our officers are committed to serving a diverse city. Mayor, a council member referenced, we have many officers who themselves are immigrants, and many of us are deeply connected to the immigrant community in our city. With that, we are also working around revisions to our immigration enforcement policy. That has been in the works for weeks. We've obtained feedback from community and community-based organizations, and we will be issuing additional guidance this week to our officers, again, to try and address some of the issues that we're seeing nationally, and to provide clear guidelines to our officers. With that, I'll turn it back to our mayor.
We'll open it to questions.
Just to be clear, these 100 agents are on the ground and they call and need crowd control. Will both cities, Minneapolis and St. Paul, continue to send officers for that capacity?
Yeah. I was talking to Mayor Carter about this just recently, and here's the thing. Our police officers are not ICE agents. They will not cooperate with ICE agents. But the presence of ICE agents doesn't suddenly make our police officers not police officers. That's what Mayor Carter said to me the other day, and he's exactly right. our police officers have an obligation, first of all, not to enforce federal immigration law. That is not their job. I want our police officers keeping people safe. I want our police officers responding to violent crime. I want our police officers preventing homicides and carjackings and shootings from occurring in the first place. You know what I don't want them doing? I don't want our police officers spending a single second hunting the father down that just dropped his kids off at daycare, who's about to go and work a 12-hour shift, who happens to be from Mogadishu or who happens to be from Ecuador. That man makes our city a better place. That man is a valued resident of our city and someone who we're proud to have him call Minneapolis and or St. Paul home. Our police officers do respond to 911 calls. And there are instances where they will have to escort an ambulance. There will be instances when somebody will call 911 reporting a kidnapping. Many times those calls do in fact come in even during some form of federal raid. So the presence of ICE doesn't mean that our responsibility to keep people safe stops. It means that we have to be there to protect people, to protect property, and to save lives. That job doesn't get thrown in the garbage simply because the actions of the federal government happen to be garbage themselves. Please.
If I can respond to that, what we need is a law enforcement presence that's a stabilizing and reassuring presence. Our law enforcement presence ought to make people feel more safe, less fearful, that's the word that you use, and help us facilitate safe outcomes in our community. That's the problem with what we see from the federal government right now, is that we're seeing federal agents operate in communities across our country, not just St. Paul and Minneapolis, but in communities across our country in ways that certainly by impact, certainly have the impact and actually seem to be designed for the purpose of making people more fearful and making people feel less safe in our community. That's a subversion. The problem is, in St. Paul and in Minneapolis and all across the country, is that we see federal agents showing up, and like I said, it feels to me intentionally, but whether it's intentional or not, federal agents showing up in communities across this country and having the impact of making people feel less safe, of making situations feel chaotic. And it is the responsibility of our police officers to respond to unsafe and chaotic situations in our community and help to try to be a stabilizing presence. And that's what I said earlier, and I think Chief O'Hara acknowledged this as well. And the truth is, you can interrupt me if you like, I don't even actually like the phrase crowd control, because our goal has to be what I said at the beginning, to be a stabilizing presence, to be a reassuring presence, and, as you've heard many people say today, to facilitate, not control a crowd, but to facilitate the crowd's ability to safely express their First Amendment rights. Now, one of the key things to that is we have people across this metro area who've been trained as peaceful interveners, people who've been trained as witnesses, as people who've been trained to be able to help be organizers. And when we show up to those protests, it's our responsibility to help enforce and follow the norms that help to keep that a peaceful protest, so that we can do our part as well to help be a stabilizing influence. And that's sort of what I was talking about when I said, we have to do the opposite of what they're doing. Sadly, we live in an era where we have to find all of our ways, whether that's community members, whether that's protesters, whether that's elected leaders, whether that's our brothers and sisters in uniform. We all have to find ways to help stabilize things that it feels like our federal government and our President of the United States are intentionally destabilizing. Yes, we need our officers to be helpful to be stabilizing presence in those spaces and in all of our spaces in our community. Thank you.
Do officials in each city currently have an open line of dialogue with the Department of Homeland Security, just to get a basic sense of what you are responding to when the police does in fact end up going to these scenes? Or are you essentially showing up blind at a chaotic confrontation?
Can you repeat the question? I will. Yep. Yep. So the question, Ernesto's question was, do officials in our city have communication with the Department of Homeland Security so that when these large-scale raids happen, we're not going in blind? So we do work with federal law enforcement literally every day around violent crime, around people smuggling fentanyl into the country, gang violence, those types of things. That is a part of our job. But our officers that do work with federal law enforcement have very clear directives, and federal law enforcement is aware that we absolutely will have nothing to do with anything related to immigration enforcement. So as you are aware, the one instance that we've had in this city, we were caught by surprise because of that. But yes, on a day-to-day basis, we are still working with federal law enforcement to prosecute people that are carjacking people in this city, that are involved in gang violence, that are involved in smuggling drugs and shooting people. That still happens. But no, there is no communication around immigration enforcement.
Chief, what preparations are you making, and what are you telling officers? Are you having have a riot here at the ready just in case things get out of hand? And what have you been telling your officers in those roll calls that you
So the last 24 hours, I had the entire command staff with me, all of the chiefs at roll call, the leaders from our consent decree implementation unit present, as well as our officers that deal with response to large-scale incidents. So basically what I do is I have the consent decree implementation unit go over the city and the police department's policy around immigration enforcement to ensure everyone is abundantly clear where the guardrails are, and to talk about additional guidance that is coming out. Additionally, we have our folks talk about, from a tactical perspective, obviously because we're not going to get involved in legitimate First Amendment activity, but if something becomes a life-threatening emergency with a large crowd, ensuring that there is a plan beforehand, ensuring that our officers are aware that, oftentimes there's multiple agencies involved in these things, and we're finding out after the fact, ensuring that our officers are aware that they're only going to take orders from people appointed over them in the Minneapolis Police Department, and ensuring that there is a plan if we do have to rescue a person who may be injured or anything like that, that there is a plan to get in and get out as safely as possible. We will not automatically respond just because someone has called and asking for assistance. But if something is an emergency, there is no time to talk about and have it go up the chain of command and say, are we going to respond? But things unfold very quickly, and we will do our sworn duty to respond to protect life when it's needed.
You've got time for about two more questions. Two more questions, please.
Mayor Fry, you described it as a when, not an if, that ICE will be breaking the law when they engage in this operation targeting the Somali community. What tangible action can the city of Minneapolis, can the police department take to actually protect people who have every legal right to be here and to hold ICE agents accountable if, as you described it, they do break the law?
I'll start by noting that all of this is based on reports that have come out recently from the media. If, in fact, those reports are accurate, and there are 100 federal immigration agents that will be deployed upon Minneapolis and St. Paul, specifically with the intention of targeting our Somali community, they're going to run into all sorts of constitutional impossibility that they can't begin to comprehend. Again, there's more than 80,000 Somali people that live in the state of Minnesota. A very tiny portion of them aren't citizens. In other words, the vast majority, almost all of the Somali people that are here in Minnesota and in Minneapolis are citizens. I feel that it will be a practical inevitability that when people are arrested by federal immigration agents, they're going to get the wrong people. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to screw it up so badly that they're not just violating habeas corpus, but they are taking away the rights of American citizens. I've heard recently some of the comments that Donald Trump has made. I've heard commentary that a number of people around this country are making about our Somali community as a whole, holding them at fault for the actions of a few. The perpetrators of any form of crime should be held accountable in the United States, regardless of what ethnicity, religion, or background you come from, period. And whole communities aren't then held accountable, though, for the actions of a few. I'm Jewish, but when Bernie Madoff was committing all sorts of financial crimes, nobody held me accountable for them. I don't know if Ted Kaczynski is Polish or not, but regardless, if he is, nobody held a whole bunch of Polish people accountable for what Ted Kaczynski did. I could give 13 more examples. But the bottom line is that we have a justice system in this country, and this justice system relies on due process. It's a justice system that we abide by. We have a constitution in this country. And for those that claim to be constitutional scholars, you can't throw that Constitution out when it doesn't benefit your interest or doesn't hate on the groups that you hate. That's what we're seeing a lot of right now. Yeah, I'm going to have the chief say one thing, and we'll take one more question then.
I just wanted to add one point onto the original question around community and fears that things may be unlawful. We have experienced reports in this city, and I'm sure in St. Paul also, where people call to say that there's folks that are masked, that they're not sure if they're law enforcement, that they may be kidnapping people. Like, we have had those reports. I want to be clear to the community. The community should know that if you see something like that, that is legitimate, that you don't know if someone is law enforcement, you should call 911. And you should provide as much information as possible, because let's not forget, we very recently had tragedy in this state by someone who was purporting to be law enforcement. So please, let's be clear. That's something everyone should report, and that we will immediately respond to, and we will document, whether it's somebody's not sure if there's a kidnapping happening, somebody's not sure if that there's law enforcement present or not. And that's something else that's additional policy requirements that we are implementing, that we will document and report these types of things anytime that we hear it, and reminding our officers of their duty to intervene. So if there is anything that is a violation of someone's human rights or civil rights, excessive force or anything like that, they absolutely have a duty to intervene as police officers.
Okay, one more question. One more question from someone who has not asked a question yet. Please.
Right here.
Thank you.
This is for Mayor Fry and also Councilman Osmond. We just heard the president say that he doesn't want Somalis in the U.S. and wants them to go back to their homeland. What's your response directly to him?
He's wrong, and we want them here. Somali people have been an extraordinary benefit. I'll say it again. Somali people have been a benefit to our city for longer than I have been in our city. They have started businesses and created jobs. They have added to the cultural fabric of what Minneapolis is. They were welcoming to me when I first came out to Minneapolis. In fact, they were one of the first groups that I myself got to know. To, again, villainize an entire group is ridiculous under any circumstances. And the way that Donald Trump is consistently doing it, I think, calls into question major constitutional violations. And it certainly violates the moral fabric of what we stand by in this country as Americans. Councilmember Osmond, I'm sure you can add a bit more.
Somali Americans, Somalis are here to stay. America is an immigrant country. It has been an immigrant country for over how many years? Hundreds of years. Our community contribute a lot to this state and the city. We love this city. This is home. We're not going anywhere. Call the American people to stop the hate, to stop the Donald Trump hate. He continue to divide Americans. That's what he's doing. Like I say, it's time to stand up against his hate and unite. Somalis are here to stay. We love this state. We love this country. this is home. Thank you.
No, I'd actually like to respond to that as well. The words that founded this country, the words that launched this American experience, start with "we the people." And I believe that the sacred moments in American history are the moments we've had to decide who the we is, who gets to be included in the we. Do we mean black people? Do we mean women? Do we mean immigrants? Do we mean gay and lesbian teenagers? We have to decide who is a part of the we when we say we the people. We the people. And the Constitution of the United States, the Declaration of Independence, says that the authority, the just power of our government, the just power of those federal agents, the just power of our police officers, that authority is granted by the consent of the governed. And so when we talk about attacks, racist, Islamophobic, xenophobic attacks on our Somali community, and you combine that with what Mayor Fry just said, the vast majority of our Somali community are citizens. So who he just attacked isn't just Somalis. Who he attacked is Somali Americans. Who he attacked is Americans. And so if the President of the United States is telling you out loud that he hates Americans, then I can't imagine a greater confession of incompetence to do the job that you've been hired to do than to say you don't believe that Americans belong in America. That's what Donald Trump said to us today, and it's very important for us to understand that that was not just an attack on our Somali community, it was an attack on our Somali community, and everything Mayor Fry and Councilman Osmond said is important. But it's easy to sit at home and say, oh, he's attacking them. He's attacking Americans, American citizens, American residents, American neighbors. They're destabilizing communities and trying to get us to be afraid of somebody because of what they look like. And as Mayor Fry said, it's probable that there will be constitutional abuses. It's not probable. It's what they're saying. They are saying they target people based on how they look. Now, all of us grew up in classes that taught us that that's wrong, and it's still wrong today. So what you heard the president say today was that he is incompetent and incapable of being a president for the people of the United States because he just said out loud that he despises Americans. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. All right, I've got some housekeeping stuff as soon as they leave. You just hold one sec.
All right, there you heard from elected officials in Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, the mayor of St. Paul, the police chief, city councilman, about attacks on the Somali people by the Trump administration and President Trump in the wake of recent comments that have come from President Trump, though he has made comments targeting the Somali community long before throughout his various campaigns. Recent comments have elicited a response from elected officials in Minnesota, which is what you heard right then. Now, speaking of the president, we are almost out of time, but President Donald Trump has just taken the podium for an announcement about the Trump Savings Account, a tax advantage savings and investment account for children that's a part of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So let's go out to the White House for an announcement from the president. The timing here, a little bit unique as we go from talking about the president from officials in Minnesota to the president himself speaking about the Trump savings accounts.
I think, it sounded just so good and so unique, but that's why he's been so successful, and they've been so successful in life and in business because they're unique. Trump accounts will be the first, I guess you could say, real trust funds for every American child, allowing family members, employers, corporations, generous donors to contribute money that will be invested and grow over the course of a child's life to be used for their benefit after they turn 18. So in other words, these are children that are going to, an investment's going to be made. That investment's going to continue to grow, we hope, right? We hope. And, but it will. And they'll feel like Michael Dell someday. But at 18, they'll have a lot of money, a lot more money than they would have had, and potentially a lot of money. But these accounts will track the overall stock market and will be 100% private property controlled by the child's guardians. In honor of America's 250th anniversary, the Dells are announcing today that they are giving 25 million American children $250 each to save and to invest in their personal Trump account. Now, that's the equivalent of $6.25 billion. In other words, to put it succinctly, Michael and Susan are giving $6,250,000,000.
Okay, unfortunately, we do not get to hear the entirety of that announcement because it is almost 3 o'clock. We are almost done with Live Impact News. Perhaps this is something we'll be able to dive into a little bit deeper tomorrow. As you heard, Trump savings account, tax-free savings accounts for every child. And again, we are almost out of time. We won't be able to dive any further into that topic today, but perhaps tomorrow more on those accounts and the donation from the Dell family. All right, that's it for Live Impact News. We went a little bit over. Hopefully we didn't get cut off. Either way, we would love to see you here again tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thanks for watching.